Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Neremik. Welcome back to more of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Last time we started off in case 4, and we met our client, Natsume, and we ramped up by agreeing to defend him. So I believe we are finished here, so you can leave, and we got to go to Briar Road, scene of crime. Of course, if you do end up enjoying, feel free to like or subscribe. But with all that said, let's get into it. What's the Japanese delegation doing here? Oh, Inspector Gregson. This isn't on the tourist trails, I'm fairly sure you're well aware. Yes, of course. We're here to investigate. So, you've been to the holding cells then. What do you make of the criminal? He's not a criminal as you put it, Inspector. He's a suspect. We'll see about that. You Japanese like to stick together, I suppose. Well, do what you will. It doesn't bother me. Bloke's in court tomorrow whatever happens, and the verdict's a foregone conclusion. Ugh, stone cold air of rejection. Take heart, London at this time of year is full of stone cold air. That makes it worse somehow. Okay, well we'll talk to Gregson first. So, Scotland Yard. Tell me about Scotland Yard, Inspector. Ever since I read about it in the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, I've been fascinated by the place. The Yard. Most sophisticated policing organisation you'll find anywhere in the world, ma'am. Oh, and you know I've always dreamt of wearing a real Bobby's helmet. It does make them look the part, seeing that policeman there with his helmet on. You certainly get the sense that this is a man who will take no nonsense in his duty of protecting the city. Oh yes, doesn't he look wonderful? Being the London Bobbies are going, I can tell you. Oh really? First thing in the morning, you know what he does. Goes around and rouses all the labourers on his beat so they can get off to work. What? He wakes people up? Yep, raps on the windows with a long pole. Did it myself going back a bit. I had no idea. Well, he works for the people of the town. It's just another one of his duties. And after that, he starts tirelessly patrolling the streets all day long. He has to cover 20 miles a day. That's the regulation distance. I can't really imagine how far that is, but it sounds like a long way. Let me see. 20 miles? That's approximately the distance from Tokyo to Yokohama. On foot? That's definitely taking things a step too far. And when it gets dark, of course, he has the important job of lighting all the gas street lamps. Oh my. And I suppose in between all those duties, Bobbies are expected to investigate cases as well. And chase after criminals trying to evade the law. I'm not sure you could call it in between exactly, more alongside, but yes. They're expected to handle those jobs as well. You do have men queuing over from time to time, I admit. I'd always dreamt of wearing one of those helmets, as I said. But it's with a heavy heart, and I shall have to relinquish that dream to you, Mr. Naruhodo. Your heavy heart will be my heavy head if you do. Okay, about the case. It happened at around 5 in the evening 2 days ago, just there on that open bit of pavement. The victim, a young woman, was stabbed with a blade from behind. Is it alright that the lady is still unconscious now? You mentioned that she's being treated in hospital. I never said she was a lady. Truth is, unless she comes around pretty smartish, we won't be able to find out much about her at all. I suppose that means they haven't been able to take a statement from her yet. Here's a map of the local area I happen to have on me. You can take it if you want. Really? Are you sure? It's your policy to give lawyers defending suspects the odd bit of information to go on. I haven't actually accepted the job yet, but still. Thank you, Inspector. We gratefully accept. Local map has been entered into the court record. Anyway, as far as we know, there was no one else on the scene other than the victim and your fellow countryman. So, who did it, do you think? Not much of a head-scratcher, is it? Well, I know Mr. Natsume is also claiming to not have seen anyone around, but just because he didn't see anyone, it doesn't mean we can't be sure that nobody else was present. I'm sorry to have to tell you, but we most certainly can't be sure. How? Because, ma'am, precise moment of the stabbing didn't go unnoticed. In what? We have 2 reliable witnesses, no less. Ah! It was a typical foggy London day, and your client obviously didn't see them. There were witnesses now. Okay, well, let's get about them then. Alright, who are these witnesses, Inspector? A fellow and his wife. The man's one of the most reliable and respected citizens in all London. He's a copper from Scotland Yard. Ah! A policeman. That might change things. And this policeman just happened to be there at the exact moment the woman was attacked? Nothing peculiar about that, man. Part and parcel of being a bobby. Catching them banging the axe and all that. Do you think it might be possible for us to ask that policeman a few questions? Be my guest. You can ask him what you like. In court tomorrow. Oh. I have no doubt he'll be summoned as a witness. So that'll give you something to look forward to. That's that then. He's got no intention of letting us meet the man beforehand, it seems. A policeman witnessed the incident. As your judicial assistant, I must warn you that this could make our job very difficult. Yes, and as a non-judicial assistant, I could have warned me of that too. Oh yeah, one more thing, Inspector. What? The person who led you to the suspect, I hear that was Mr. Herlock Sholmes? What are you bringing him up for? Was it something I said? The colour was drained from his cheeks. Oh, okay. We'll go to Mr. Sholmes, then we'll talk about tomorrow's trial. Who did you hear that name from? Oh, well, it was Miss Natsmary who mentioned it. I said Mr. Sholmes was with the police when they entered his lodgings. I'm sure it was a result of one of Mr. Sholmes' inspirational great deductions. Fiddle-faddle. Ah! The man's an amateur, and I'm getting sick and tired of him showing his mug everywhere. Oh. I don't know where he gets his information from, but he turns up at the scene of the crime, wanders around spouting incomprehensible rubbish before you know it. He claims to have solved the case! Well, yeah, he's quite astounding, isn't he? He is a great help to Scotland Yard, though, isn't he? Oh, gabble gabble. Ever seen this before? Oh, yeah, that's Rance the Magazine. Ah, the wonderful publication in which the adventures of Mr. Sholmes appear. Yes, well, that wonderful publication, as you put it, seems fit to include several of the Yard's detectives in its stories, and the so-called great detectives make up some mockery of all of us. If you ask anyone at the Yard, it's a misadventure to be included in any Sherlock Holmes novel at all. Well, I suppose there is an element of that. We work our socks off, every one of us, only to be fronted by the public thanks to that obnoxious detective. That's as dangerous as at Scotland Yard, as he is to all our criminals. That can't really be true, can it, Inspector? Clearly, the great detective and the police have a complex relationship. And last but not least, tomorrow's trial. That twitchy Japanese bloke goes on trial tomorrow. Are you going to defend him or not? Well, makes no difference to me, but I will just say this. No one lawyer with his soul will touch that case with a barge pole. Because the prosecution is being handled by the Reaper of the Bailey, you mean? There's no way to save that man now. It's a waste of time trying. It is all a bit strange, though. Sorry? The Reaper. He hasn't appeared in court once for a good few years now. Yes, we did hear something to that effect. And the only people he usually bothers with are the real scum. The master criminals. The violent ones. Master criminals. The violent ones? That's right. He handpicks his victims, only deals with those guaranteed to go to the gallows for their sins. But Mr. Natsume wouldn't hang for what he's accused of, surely? That's just my point, Sunshine. Yes, the young woman was stabbed, but it didn't kill her. Couldn't even say the intent was there. So this isn't the sort of case I'd be expecting the Reaper to want to sink his teeth into, for want of a better phrase. Well, it's not exactly a minor infraction, is it? No, there's got to be something more to it. Some reason he's taken an interest. Really? What sort of reason, Inspector? You think I can tell what's going on inside the head of that Lord of Darkness? You'll have to ask him yourself at tomorrow's trial. Are we really going to have to face the Reaper again? The Lord of Darkness, as he puts it. Okay. Well, I don't think we're going to get anywhere more useful out of the detective. Mr. Naruhodo, can I make a suggestion? Oh yes, what is it? Well, it seems to me that we must speak with him about this. By him, do you mean Mr. Sholmes? Yes, Mr. Sherlock Sholmes, exactly. Look at those shining eyes. You can't wait, can you? Well, Mr. Natsume did blame Mr. Sholmes for all of this, didn't he? Yes, he did. He really did. Which makes him an involved party in this case. Are you just going to ignore that? I hope not. I assure you, it's not simply my selfish desire to meet with Mr. Sholmes again. The trouble is, we have no idea of the man's address, even. So how? It's Baker Street. How do you know that? It's in the stories, of course. 221B Baker Street, the most famous address in the world. That I did not have memorized before that line. Ah, I see. Well, there's nothing stopping us from going, I suppose. We best try to find our way there before Susato-san gets any more excited and unpredictable. Hurrah! I'll summon a carriage. So, we're off to have a reunion already. With the great detective, Mr. Sherlock Sholmes. Okay, so we're gonna make a move to Sholmes' suite. So, the home and office of the most famous detective in the world. I'd be surprised if we can just walk in. But, I mean, hey, maybe he's the type of guy to leave his door unlocked. Who am I to judge?
Thank you very much. It's just up there overlooking the street. Good day. Thanks again. This is it. The residence of Mr. Sherlock Sholmes.
Well, it's certainly a big house. I can't argue with that logic. Okay, so 19th of February, 12:53 PM, Sholmes' suite. So this is where the great detective makes his living. Feels surreal to be here somehow. Is it as described in the stories, Miss Susato? Susato-san. Many famous cases have been solved here in this very room. Oh, I suppose they might have been, yeah. I never read the story, so it's hard to get quite as excited about it as she seems to be. The detective chases the villain relentlessly as he dissipates into the fog down an unlit London street. Oh, the thrill of it, the romanticism. Can't you feel your heart thumping in your chest? Can't you, Mr. Naruto? No, I suppose I can, yeah. So, if you don't mind, I'll just stand here and soak up the atmosphere for a while longer. Please, don't mind me. Ah, she's obsessed. Well, it looks like our detective friend isn't home at present. How did you get in? Excuse me, is anybody home? Oh, do we have a visitor? Hello, it's a big new case with Mr. Sholmes. Yeah, hello. Why are you here? I can't do your voice. Wait, aren't you... Oh, how rude of me. I'll go make us some tea at once. I'm sure it's the same girl. Mr. Sato, did you see the girl who was just here? Oh yes, isn't it truly extraordinary? To think that the King of Bohemia came to this very room to ask Mr. Sholmes to take on his case. That the King of Bulgaria? King Wilhelm Goldstrateman von Oberstein, of course. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Forget the adventures of Sherlock Sholmes for a moment and look over there. Tea's brewed, and a freshly baked cake as well. Ah, it's you. I know it, Susato-san recognizes her too. Ah, there you are. I'm taking that with you as well. I was looking forward to the trial running my experimental smoke grenade launcher. Oh, good day to you. I'm, the inventor, I suppose, of that machine. It's the girl who turned up at the end of Mr. McGilder's trial in the defendant's antechamber. I've never met a lady from the Far East before. Boy, you having to get started. I was working in Revive in London. Oh, yeah, it was, challenging. Well, try this tea. It's my special blend, you know. Oh, thank you. Is tea supposed to look that colour? Oh my, what a fragrant yet mellow flavour. Hooray! It's a winner! I tried blending different leaves designed to alleviate fatigue, you see. You must be exhausted after your long voyage here, and you have another ticklish trial tomorrow. Oh, and just to defend the Japanese man, I do wish you lots and lots of luck. Did Mr. Sholmes tell you about us by any chance? Oh, you know Hurley, do you? Hurley? Mr. Sholmes? Really? Mr. Sholmes was a fellow passenger on the boat that brought us to Great Britain, you see. Was he really? Well, I had no idea. I'm afraid Early's out on an errand again today, even though he's just returned from overseas. Wait a minute. We met this girl for the first time ever yesterday after the trial, and only briefly at that. How on earth does she know so much about us? Did she deduce all those things? Do you think? And perhaps more to the point, why is she here in Mr. Sholmes' suite? Oh, silly me, I haven't introduced myself, have I? It's a great pleasure to meet you both. My name is Iris Wilson. I live here together with Early. Ah, Iris, is it? What a lovely name. What's the matter? No, wait, this can't be. Did you say that your name is Wilson? What's the matter with Susato-san? Why is she so flustered all of a sudden? Yeah, that's right. And what are your names? Oh, I'm Ryunosuke Naruhodo, a lawyer from Japan. Oh, sorry. I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant, Susato Mikotoba. It's a wonderful time to meet you. Lovely. Susie and Runo. Got it. Susie. And Bruno. And there's more to this girl than meets the eye. I have so many questions for her, I don't know where to start. Yes, and so do I. Okay, how many dialogue options have we got? I would like Sholmes to appear because your voice is very difficult to do. So, it was you that we ran into yesterday, wasn't it? At the Old Bailey. Yeah, that's right. You're ever so helpful. Thank you so much. Oh, no, not at all. I'm sorry, we couldn't have been more welcoming. Look, to be fair, your client had just burned to death. Bit of a bad time. Okay, yeah. Though at the time we did have a rather large gun pointed at us. See, man after my own heart. Like this? Ah, thinking back now, you were with Miss Lestrade in tow, didn't you? Oh yeah, that awkward witness, Gina. Oh, Ginny. Yeah, she's a professional pickpocket. So we found out. It was very naughty of her to pinch my invention like that. Are you referring to that trial-disrupting gun-like contraption? Exactly. So I followed ASC to get it back. Perhaps I should think about fitting a self-destruct mechanism in my inventions. This girl is dangerous. Anyway, I brought Ginny back here after that, so she could oblige my trusty technician. Sorry, your technician? Hurley, of course, silly. Hurley? Yes, Hurlock Sholmes. We live here together. I have no idea the great detective had such an interesting young daughter. No, not likely. What? I wouldn't claim Hurley if he wasn't my father, would I? Well then, what is your relationship with Mr. Sholmes? That was a Susato line. Oops. Well, I suspect you found out the lodgings of any kind in London are very expensive. So the solution is to share the cost with a partner, a roommate. Your roommates. I hope you don't mind me asking, Iris, but how old are you? 10 this last year. Well, what of your mother and father? Oh no, they're not around. Oh, I see. I wonder what the story is there. Okay, Wilson. Oh yes, there's something I must ask you. Of course. Go ahead, Susie. I'm a very great fan of the adventures of Sherlock Holmes and... Oh, you have a copy of Rand's magazine? Yes, I read every issue. It's delivered all the way to Japan on a ship. Ah, this is so exciting. My story's being read on the other side of the world. My stories? That's right. Oh, he's always solving such amazing cases, you see, and he tells me all about them. They really are quite fascinating. It would be such a shame if I was the only one who ever heard them, don't you think? Goodness! Last night he was telling me all about a new case he just solved on a steamship travelling from faraway land. So I was just in the middle of typing up the manuscript for the next issue before you came. So you are the author? Yes, I'll let you on a secret if you like. I'm going to call this latest adventure the Speckled Band. The Speckled Band, that's certainly a very familiar name. Of course, I always change one or two details in the stories, here and there. This time I had the idea of making a venomous snake be the cause of all the trouble. Oh, that was Mr. Sholmes' first thought as well, actually. Yes, and of course I know that the snake might not be a credible fit for the facts of the case exactly, but it's a story. Some poetic license justified to make it more thrilling, I think. Don't you? So do you mean to say... Are the stories about Mr. Sholmes that are published in the Rance magazine all written by me? Yes, I'm a wonderful and very modern typewriter. But all the stories I've ever read are written by a Doctor of Medicine, Dr. John H. Wilson. Susato sounds getting more and more worked up. Ah, yeah, that's me. I mean, my name really is Wilson. But what about the Doctor of Medicine part? Oh, that's all true too. I am a Doctor of Medicine. No! At 10? At 10 years old? Well, that's quite incredible. But Dr. Wilson is an English gentleman. Ah, yeah. I did alter the setting slightly for the stories to be more compelling. Oh. Well, it sounds like a little strange, doesn't it? A great detective with a 10-year-old girl in tow. I suppose it does, yes. Poor Susato-san. She was like a whole worldview has just fallen apart. Your deductions just now. About before... Yes? What's on your mind, Bruno? Do tell me. How did you know that I was a lawyer and we just arrived in London, I mean? Yes. Oh, and that we have a difficult trial tomorrow. How did you know all of that? Oh, that's what you mean. Please tell us how you did it. Explain every detail. Of course, I'd be delighted. Although there's really no mystery. Now, let's begin. Iris Wilson is proud to present a logic and reasoning spectacular. Are we really doing this? What the fuck? First of all, I already knew that you were a lawyer, Bruno. After all, I met you yesterday at the Old Bailey in the defendant's antechamber. But you also said that we'd only just arrived in London. How did you know that? I observed the passport and travel ticket protruding from your breast pocket. Oh. So I was reasonably confident you must have only just arrived in the country. And on top of that, you accepted the case against that particular prosecutor, telling me you were unaware of London's court affairs. The Reaper of the Bailey. I looked right into that one, didn't I? Then I noticed a writing sample on the back of Susie's hand. You were given that when you visited the local prison to meet with the suspects, weren't you? Earlier today. Ah! They use those stamps to keep a close eye on comings and goings, you see. I didn't realise. And a red stamp is only used for people visiting foreign inmates. So, that told me that even though you had only yesterday concluded the trial of Magnus McGilded, that the two of you had already had cause to visit a foreign inmate at the local prison. However, neither of you were wearing a particularly sad expression on your face, so I concluded that the prisoner was unlikely to be a friend or relative. That led me to believe that you must have accepted a new case. I see. But how could you have known that the trial was tomorrow? Well, having barely been on for a few hours yesterday, Huey solved just another case. He was obviously amusing him. He told me that he'd caught a Japanese man who was bawling and trembling. A Japanese man? Well, clearly that must have been Mr. Natsume. Now, Bruno has that fancy Japanese sword. And I think that your outfit is called a kimono, isn't it, Susie? Well, anyway, it was clear to me that you both come from Japan yourselves. So I put two and two together and decided you must be defending the Japanese man who we caught. And there was only one conclusion from those facts that it could lead me to. You both came here to ask Hurley about the case. There's a note on the mantelpiece that says the man's trial will be tomorrow. Oh, he's always stabbing his notes with a knife, you know. He is silly. And that's all there was to it, really. Thank you for listening. I'm Iris Wilson, and that was one of my great deductions. Well, was it the winner, or were my deductions correct? They were spot on! That was amazing, Iris. Truly a great deduction. You even managed to find a certain something of Mr. Sholmes' delivery. Ah, well, I was just copying Hurley's style for that. This really is good news. You could tell us all about the case involving the Japanese man. You will, won't you, Iris? Please? Oh, do we carry on? Because, like I said, this is... do I have a shorter episode, or do we... I say we finish talking to Iris, and then we'll cut the episode there. Make it a little shorter one. So yesterday, Mr. Sholmes apprehended a Japanese man, you were saying? Yes. He just arrived back in London after his sea voyage, but the police were waiting for him at the railway station to take him directly to the crime scene. Ah, the great detective is a popular man, it seems. Apparently, a woman was stabbed on a quiet street somewhere in town. There were witnesses who had seen a short, shifty-looking stooped man running away from the scene. A short, shifty-looking stooped man? Mr. Natsume beyond any doubt. Sosuke-san said that he didn't see anybody else on the street at all, but it seems there were witnesses after all. He'll use his great detective powers to determine the man's address. There was a lodging room very nearby. He went directly there with the police, and what did they find? A short, shifty-looking, stooped man shivering in fear. Ugh, Mr. Sholmes' great deduction certainly hit the mark that time. Of course it did! He's a great detective! Still, that means the incident occurred only 2 days ago. Surely tomorrow is too soon for the trial, isn't it? Definitely. We have no time to investigate properly. Hurley says that London is rife with crime. Oh. Scotland Yard is doing its best, but they can't stay on top of it, apparently. Oh dear. I hadn't realised the situation was so dire. That's why they can't afford to spend too much time investigating cases and trying the criminals in courts. Staff and money are both short. Crimes are usually pinned on the first suspicious person. That's terrible! I suppose it's the harsh reality of the workings of the world's greatest justice system. I suppose it is, but in that case, I don't hold that much hopes for Sosuke-san. Thank you for answering so many of our questions, Iris. This has been very informative. Oh, you're most welcome. I've had so much fun. Do you happen to know where Mr. Sholmes is at the moment? As you guessed, we'd like to ask him some questions about the case as well. Ah, well... I expect Hurley's still investigating the scene. Of the case involving Mr. Natsume, you mean? Yes, Mr. Nuts. Oh, May. Hurley said he was going to the man's lodgings. If you leave now, you'll probably catch him there. Iris, do you know where those lodgings are? Well, I imagine the police are still investigating the scene of the crime themselves, aren't they? Did you happen to come across a detective by the name of Gregson when you were there? Yes, we know Inspector Gregson. Ah, goody. In that case... give Gregsy this from me, would you? If you do that, I'm sure he'll tell you what you want to know. What? Is this a bribe? A 5-shilling piece and a postcard, it seems. Iris's postcard has been entered into the court record. It reads, "Tell the gentleman in black whatever he wants to know. I trust that won't be a problem." Gosh, this will make the inspector help us, will it? Well, thank you, Iris. We'll give it a try. Good luck then. I'm going to return to writing my manuscript, The Speckled Band. And I'll be making more special blends of tea, so come on again soon. We'd be delighted. Thank you so much, Iris. Well, Mr. Naruto, it's back to the scene of the crime. Actually, it's back to the save window, because we're going to end the episode now. Right, so, somewhat dubious that they would exert any influence over the men at Scotland Yard at all, we headed back to the scene with Iris's curious note and one of the world's heaviest silver coins in hand. Okay, I assume this is going to be an autosave. Perfect! This lines up perfectly, actually. So I assume we've got 2 more episodes of investigating, then like maybe 3 in the courtrooms. Case shouldn't drag on too long, but I like it, so if it does I won't moan too much. But we're going to save. Of course, if you did enjoy, feel free to like and subscribe, do all that fun stuff, helps out a bunch. And until next time, that's everything. So thanks for watching, guys. My name's been Neremik, and peace out.